Have we allowed our souls to die in the midst of comfort that's provided to capture us spiritually but involuntarily by those close to us? We have denied ourselves the privilege granted to us to allow life and the source to express itself through us. Have we succumbed to an imbalance that has stripped us of our humanhood to be fully conscious and in tune with all that there is, that is not bound by space and time, and that could only possibly exist around us and within us, that which we call nature and miracles to the naked eye and unconscious mind? Does comfort cripple those who have mentally detached from their purpose? Those who live from handouts that are genuinely poured out to them with love? Are you that fearful of having nothing and having to trust in the Supreme with certainty that you too are an expression of His being, that perpetuates an illusion of not having insight that can be translated into the tangible? How less human do you think of yourself? The Bible tells us we are made in His image, which could only mean we are co-creators with God. In us is the ability that is unquestionably kick-started by faith and certainty. How little do we think of our Creator, if little is what we think of ourselves? Have we no shame to strip ourselves of our souls for pleasure of ownership of material possessions? Have we?
Welcome to yet another episode of Oh My God, Ntate Galactic here. I'm very, very happy to introduce our first guest onto the show, Tintswalo Masiye.
Hey, Dr. Galactic.
How are you?
I'm great, and yourself?
No, I'm great. Let me just put this into perspective for the viewers. So you saw one of our episodes, What If?
Yeah.
What If? And I saw that you had posted something. You're also starting a podcast, right? And your podcast is called
A courageous
A
journey.
Courageous Journey. And I listened to your podcast, and that's the first thing I did. And that's why I said, would you like to come onto the show? And you were like,
Yeah.
great. Now, I mentioned something in the show, in the previous episode. I mentioned the fact that we are a weak generation. Then you responded and you
Yes,
said,
yes. No, like in the What If video, excuse me, in the episode you guys shot, you were just elaborating on why you felt you connected deeply with the What If poem.
Yes.
And you illustrated and painted a picture of how people shed blood, and you feel like we aren't living up to that in this era, and you called us a weak generation.
Sure.
So I opposed that by calling us not a weak generation, but rather an unconscious and wounded one. Because now, how can one embody strength if they aren't in a position to fully look within? Strength is something that comes from within. It's something that is cultivated. So many of us are living in a generation where trauma is a thing that is not really looked into, but it's a real thing. You
Yeah.
know, so many of us have grown up in homes. There's certain dynamics and certain things we've experienced as we've been growing up throughout, childhood, teenagehood, and adulthood.
Yes.
That have now become some form of conditioning, some form of programming that makes us so broken within ourselves. We are disenfranchised. We are in misalignment with ourselves and our true being, and hence none of us can truly be, what you want us to be in regards to showing the strength that those in previous eras showed, because we haven't yet healed, we haven't yet found our voices, and we don't even know what strength looks like.
Look, it's very, I hear you, right?
Yeah.
But there's an old person who said to me that the problem with our generation is we've got so much time on our hands. And he said, you guys have got time to be depressed. Tina, when we were growing up, we had no time to be depressed. It was survival, And I think that's probably where the disconnect sort of lies, in the sense that the elderly generation or our previous generations were more fighting for us to be able to sit at this bench right now and have a conversation. So yes, I mean, you could say, I don't think they were unconscious, so to speak. I just felt like they were living in a totally different era where they were fighting other demons that hopefully we were supposed to like now come through that and come as better people. But it's so strange that there's a huge disconnect, I feel, that they did all of that, but now we sit here and what are we as a generation actually doing? Because you're saying we haven't healed and we haven't found strength within ourselves, And I think that's what I also wanted us to speak about now, speak about, I mean, you're a mother of 4. I'm a single dad of 3, and growing up, we were always told about a certain family structure, that it must be mom, dad, house, picket fence. When you turn 18, you do this, you go there. By the time you're 24, whatever, you must have your first kid, you must be married, etc., etc. And you find that it's a blanket approach and it doesn't work for everyone, I don't know, maybe you want to tell me about your sort of
my take on it.
your take on it,
Okay, well, firstly, this has become the hardest time to be a parent to start with, right? When you look back at before the World War II, there was some form of joint purpose and some form of commonality. People are now raising their families and kids alone. Back then, there were tribes. You were never alone. Right now, what we're seeing in these nuclear families, like you say, is the mom, the dad, the child. There's no social structure. There's no support. You basically are undergoing all these social pressures, trying to live up to, whatever success standards and trying to raise your kids on a good financial level. And that creates some form of absence, Watola. When they were like tribes, there was more than one person that a child can engage with. There was more than one person that a child could attune to. There was a group of a whole lot of women and men that were there to create some form, because kids have attachment needs. Kids have emotional needs, and we live in a society that does not allow kids and their attachments to be met, because we need to be at work, we need to be running our careers, we want to create something out of ourselves, and there is no network of some sort that encourages us to kind of connect with our kids, to attune to them and to raise them as healthy emotional beings, because support structure
and I agree with you when you talk about emotional support, because I feel like a lot of parents, there's guys who go and fetch their kids from their baby mama or their ex-wives, and what they do is they go and dump their kids at the parents, for 2 weeks or whatever, but the guy thinks he's being a present father, just because I pick them up, or just because I pay school fees, or just because I do these financial things, therefore
I'm a loving responsible father,
which I don't think is true.
No, it's not. But also, it's not his fault. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, based on everything that we are in this instance and how we treat ourselves and everyone around us, more especially our kids, is a mirror and a direct reflection of our own
of
upbringing.
Ourselves, right?
Yes, of our own upbringing. Because now, if you grow up in a home where your father's not there, and it's a generational thing, it's over a lineage of 5,000 years, where we've seen how culture's conditioning, how the patriarchy is not keeping women and men in the home. So now, if your father was not there, you don't know what it is to be attuned to. You don't know what it looks like to have a present figure that is a father or a male. And how do you then become something that you don't have reference to? So you end up creating an illusion that the only way you can love or be seen as responsible is through the things that you do give people. So you can't necessarily be a loving present father who's always there, because you never got that.
Look, I mean, there's a saying that says you cannot seek what you do not possess,
Yes.
And I agree with it fully. But I mean, for instance, myself, I grew up in a normal family, and normal in inverted commas, where my mom and my dad were married and they had us and we lived in the house. And unfortunately, they did get divorced, But I'm of the belief that I had a decent upbringing. My father and my mother were present in both of my sisters and I's life. Sadly, they got divorced. I'm also I'm divorced myself as well. And I just feel that there's a lot of single parents, and we're a fatherless generation. I mentioned it in the other episodes that guys are in daddyville and there's just not present fathers. And you know, how do you cope with that? You know, how are you, for instance, a single woman and you're supposed to have your career, you're supposed to put food on the table, and you come back from home and you're dog tired and these kids are going mad. That's why most of the time parents are just giving kids cell phones. Kids are on iPads the whole day, you know,
TikTok.
on TikTok, you know. And when we grew up, it was different because we could go and play in the streets, you know. Nerdlala topo, nerdlale whatever, you know, but we
Yeah.
were out and having
Yeah.
fun
I
in the
actually
streets,
like
you know.
that you're bringing that up, because with this digital age, we're actually moving more and more away from nature. Tribes were raising their kids in nature. And then the industrial revolution came, and now we're in a digital age. Reality is no longer reality. You can literally wear a helmet and you see whatever you see. So everything is now filtered in how we are living, and we are moving more and more away from who we truly need to be, how we can access that being through nature and connecting with ourselves, and then being able to connect with others. Over the years that our parents and their parents have been raised, it's just been a journey of trying to actually rediscover who we are, but not having the tools, not having the information, and not being able to understand our being, because with all the conditioning that has happened, we've now created ways in which we can adapt to our surroundings, we can adapt and still connect with people. You know, remember the last time we had a conversation on addiction. You know, everything that we see, the impulsive behaviors, the addiction, the shopping, the consumerism that is happening,
Yeah.
is all coming from a deep void. It's coming from longing, a longing to fit in, to connect, to feel like you are part of something, to feel like you are one with everyone else, you know?
But how do we fill that void? You know, you're speaking of, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying, how do we fill that void, and what sort of tools do we need to become better parents, to raise better children, you know, and get them away from the digital life and to the essence of life, because it's not a cell phone. That's not it, you know.
So we are not trying to fill a void, right? In terms of rediscovering who we are. It's about now starting to cultivate. But firstly, in that cultivation, you first need to be aware and conscious of the fact that we've been asleep. We are a very unconscious generation, and culture's construct is all on our unconsciousness, and that's how culture can breed competition and comparison. That's why there's beef, there's, you know, judgment, there's certain standards of beauty, there's certain standards of success and what all. So the moment you're able to actually start being intuitive, which is a natural thing because we're all intuitive beings, that intuition will actually help you see the things that trigger you. When you're triggered, you'll start, if you truly actually enter that pain and enter that disconnect, because obviously so many things keep us disconnected.
Yes.
And we feel the animosity, we feel the anxiousness, we
Yes.
feel, you know,
Yeah.
but our understanding, why exactly am I feeling this
Yeah.
way? And because as children we were taught to split from pain or to split from anything that makes us feel uneasy, the moment you actually enter it and you start to ask yourself, well, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I reacting?
That's the beginning of the journey of
You start to
discovery.
peel off the layers,
The layers,
of
yeah.
why. Okay, wow, I'm actually reacting like this because at some point in my life, my dad used to treat me like this, and the only way I got around feeling safe, feeling comfortable, was when I acted this way. Oh, okay, I eat too much because when I was an infant, every time I cried, I was soothed by just
giving food.
Yes, food. So now these things are now the adaptations and the coping mechanisms that we take on into our adulthood.
Sure.
They resemble our childhood, but we just can't pinpoint it because parenting is very hierarchical, it's very dogmatic, and it's very linear. You know, we are told that the parent is more authoritative, and when they say something, we need to go by it. So no one wants to say...
It's so funny you say that, just sorry to cut you, because
Yes.
our parents ruled it was a dictatorship.
Yes.
It was, don't do
It's all
this,
about
and it's
control.
why, when you ask why, it's like, I'm gonna beat you up. It's because I said so, you
It's
know.
all about control.
And I think that is the biggest issue that our parents had with us.
And
where-
their parents, not just them.
Because if you were a kid and you're throwing a tantrum in the store, because you want a certain thing and you don't get that thing. But your parents doesn't take you home and say, Mamela, this is what's going on. We actually don't have the money for that because 1, 2, 3, 4, or we're doing this and we're trying to do this for you, you know. Instead, it's just like, no,
Yeah.
I said so, you know.
Yes.
And I have got a different approach when it comes to parenting. I'm very open with my kids, you know, and I think it's because I had kids when I was young. So you find that because of the age difference, we're able to actually have a conversation.
Communicate.
We can talk about girls, and you can be like, Dad, when are you getting married? How's the where's the Hans, you know? And I'm like, there's no Hans. I'm trying to find Hans out here, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest issue that we've had, that we never felt love like that, you know, because love isn't always, you know, love is honest, guys, you know, it's honest. When someone can come to you and be honest with you and pour their heart out to you as a parent to say, Mamela ngwanaka, this is what's going on. You start looking at things differently. I mean, I'll make you a typical example. If I had known some of the things that my parents had sacrificed to be able to take me to private schools and this and that, if I was told that then, I would have taken my schooling so much more serious, you know, because I went to school and I was like, oh, this is
No,
cool.
but that's the thing. You see, as a child, emotions will always outweigh knowledge. That's just how things are. You know, if I said to you right now, Lee, I want you to walk on a plank, can I put it on the floor? You'd walk it beautifully, right?
Yes.
If I put it on 2 high-rise ceilings or buildings, you'd be
You'll be
like,
scared. Yeah.
I'm gonna fall, even though you knew that it carried you on the floor.
Sure.
So our emotions will always outweigh our knowledge. So the fact that your parents are never there will always outweigh the fact that they are trying to create a life for you, or they want to see you in private school, because we have a deep need to be loved as human beings. The moment love is not there, we feel unworthy. We feel like we can never be loved. We feel like it's our fault that, okay, my parents are never there for me. They don't make time for me. We internalize it because kids are obsessed with parental love, and when it's not there, everything goes inward. So now what do we do as adults who have now split from the love that was meant to be given to us and that which had to be nurtured as we cultivated within ourselves? What happens is that we now become people who are so empty within themselves and who feel that love is something that is external, that needs to be given, because now our childhood missed that. And whatever it takes, we will do it. If it means we spread ourselves too thin, we become people pleasers, we can't have boundaries, we can't say no to people.
We can't say no, yeah.
Because now you've got a deep need. Love was not given. Now you are able to get all that love because now you're fake. You've created, a persona was created throughout your childhood that helped you cope, that helped you survive, that helped you at least get all your needs met. You understand? And that's where our ego does come from. All of us are living from our ego to a certain extent. Who we are right now is not who we genuinely are, because who we truly were was not nurtured, and we did not continue to connect to that person. We had to split from who we were meant to be in this world and who we came here to be, in whatever iteration or whatever, you know, translate, however it can be translated to you, specifically tailored as you grow into this world based on what you want to accomplish. So now we have split from who we are. We don't know who we are, and we are just looking to find ourselves through everyone else.
Sure.
We are just looking to find ourselves in success, in clothes, in shoes, in cars, and that's why people are so identified with the things that they have. You know, they believe they are their house. They believe their self-worth comes from how much money they have in the account or how much bottles they can pop for people a night. And the moment all of that is gone, that's why many people also commit suicide, or they no longer want to be on social media when everything is taken, because their whole identity is mired with all these material things in this, you know, form-based reality.
No, that's crazy. Look, when I spoke to you the last time, I asked you about marriage, and you said to me something that you don't really believe in marriage, or please just dive into that.
For me, we all know that marriage is an institution, like education, like divorce, and, you know, there's certain constructs around what marriage is, and there's certain beliefs around how it should be conducted. But I personally feel, on the woman's end, not even about the men, on the woman's end, I feel like, firstly, it's born out of fear. That's why there's a contract. When marriage was created back then, it was created for property sakes, like to protect the family so that they can be property, or if the man passes away, at least the mom and the child are taken care of.
Sure.
So right now, people aren't really going into this institution with, there's labels and certain prescriptions on how it should be done. There's expectations on, okay, if I get married, my man must take care of me. I need to just, raise the kids and so forth and so forth. But what does that mean? That means I've identified with the role called wife, and I believe that is who I am. That's what I identify with. I'm a wife and I'm a mother, but that's not who I am. It's just a function that I need to serve. And if you look at it, the majority of women who are married kind of have this misconception that they need to be taken care of. The man must be the one who provides. And
where does that all come from?
It's all
a man
created.
must.
No.
Like because there's so many women in South Africa who's like, no, indoda mele.
Yeah, it's a must. Musaidu fiwa chelete.
Yeah, don't lahleli iwalet.
Yes. But for me, I'm personally saying this for me. When I feel like I'm in a situation like that, I feel like I'm crippling myself because I deny myself the opportunity to fully express my being because I'm dependent on someone now. And it's genuine. I get it. Whether you are taking care of me in a genuine way or you've got certain, things that you feel you are getting. But for me, I feel like I'm crippled. There's no expression and there's no freedom. The moment someone has money or authority of some sort, where in this culture that we live in, the patriarchy is very toxic.
Yeah.
Men are very controlling.
Especially guys with money.
Yes, they are very controlling.
Because they feel like they own you, right?
Yes, it's all about ownership and possession. So the moment I'm in a marriage, it's all about ownership, it's all about possession, it's all about control. If you feel like you want to go meet up with someone right now, if your husband says no,
it's no.
It's a no, and you must take it.
It's like when your dad said no when you were growing up.
Exactly. And it's funny because our early childhood development actually resembles our adult life. We mirror our traumas. Normally, the people we marry are actually trauma bonds. We marry the people who literally replicate the relationship that we had with our parents.
Yeah.
If you can really look at the dynamics and how everything happens.
That's why guys will always marry someone similar to their mom.
Yes.
What gives them that sort of feeling inside.
Because you are attracting that. That's how the law of attraction works.
Yeah.
So you attract what you are, and you don't know anything other than that. But the mirror in the relationship of you meeting that person is there to actually help you to peel off the layers of your unconsciousness and to heal your wounds.
Yeah.
The only way you can really see you're wounded is through your partner, when they trigger you, when they make you feel unloved, when they're absent.
Yes.
Then you say, wow, where does this come from? Why am I feeling like this? When in my childhood did this happen?
Yeah.
And when did I find myself feeling like this? And you can start seeing, wow, okay, I actually had an absent father. He was never there for the kids. And things seemed okay, and I'm also acting like it's okay right now, but I can feel something in me.
It's actually not.
It's not okay. Yes. So it's there to grow us if you really want to grow.
For instance, you say essence is love, and religion will say God is love, You'll talk about the soul and God inside of you, but religion will also say the spirit, the spirit of God lives in all of us, and religion will say we are all made in His image, and that's why even from a point, I can't come from a point of judgment and judge anyone else, because they made in the image of God, So if I'm judging that particular person, then what am I saying about our Creator? You understand what I'm? It's almost like.
But here's the thing: it's hard not to, because our childhood takes that away from us. When kids are born, they are whole and divine, and they are still in tune with that essence. But because now the conditioning that happens when you need to now fit these categories or be who your parents need you to be, you need love to thrive. You need connection to feel alive. You need to be held, to be touched, and to be nurtured. And if your wholeness isn't nurtured and isn't seen for what it is, automatically it dissolves. Because you need to fit these conditions of your parents or who they need you to be, because you need to survive. You need to feel some form of love. You need to feel some form of connection. So it's hard not to judge others because we've already split from that. We can't see that within ourselves. So how then will we be able to see it in another? We can't see the essence. That's why we judge them, because we are judging ourselves so much.
How do we get back to that essence? Is it us embarking on a spiritual journey and finding that inside of ourselves?
This is the spiritual journey.
Sure.
That's why being present and conscious is very important. Nature, life, essence, everything is always communicating with us.
Sure.
When we feel triggers, it's because it's an invite. Pain is an invitation to it to go inward. When you're feeling like you just had an accident, it's there to show you something. But people aren't seeking. People would rather split
But
from
people,
that thing.
they
are
want to
not-
numb the pain, or they want to like.
They are resisting the isness of life. I
Sure.
mean, if a bird pooped on you right now, you'd say, oh my gosh, like, you know, but it is what it is.
Sure.
Why do you resist it as opposed to just accepting that's what it is?
Sure.
And that's where most suffering comes from. People are suffering not because things are the way they are. They're
But because
suffering
they're not
because
accepting the
they
pain.
want them to be any other way, a different way. Yes.
But you're saying that if we had to
Enter.
enter into
The
that pain,
It brings out everything you need to know of why it's actually
happening to you,
why you're actually
which
feeling
actually-
this way. It allows you to also pinpoint where it's actually coming from. Yes.
and that's healing, right?
That is healing.
Yeah.
You can't heal what you can't feel. You need to feel it in order for you to bring it to the surface.
And look, I agree with something that you said earlier as well, that I feel, you know, I'm always like taking shots to say like, oh, we act like we're such a woke generation, when in fact I don't believe we are, is because people are too obsessed with the things of this earth, you know, and people don't want to have honest conversations about traumas, about sadness, about pain, about all these things.
And you know why?
Why?
It's because in childhood we were not allowed to be with our emotions. The moment you cry, they were told you, what are you crying for? You know, you were never. Thing is, we are raised as a generation or a society that believes that being human is actually perfect, but it's messy. You know, emotions are something that are normal.
Sure.
There's no anger that looks cute. There's no frustration that looks decent.
Sure.
You know, it needs to be. So when kids start to act out, they are called rebels. They are called the good kid or the bad kid. They are put on naughty corners.
Sure.
So you are no longer allowed to feel your emotions and be with them and allow them to be and just be released.
Sure.
You know? And that's what emotions are. Emotions are just sensations in our body. And after 90 minutes, they literally just leave.
Yeah.
So because we split from them, they get stored somewhere. We haven't yet felt them in order to release them. Now all of us are carrying so much pain, so much emotions, and we avoid certain things that bring up conflict and that make us enter that pain again, because our childhood was so painful. We were not allowed to be held with our emotions.
Sure.
So we'd rather avoid conflict. We'd rather say yes, even we're feeling like we're violated. And that's why some people can be raped and not say anything. That's why some people can watch while someone is taking advantage of them, because there was silence. Each time they spoke up, they were punished. Each time they spoke up, love was withheld from them. So there's a deep-rooted conditioning that makes them live out in silence because they want to maintain that safe net within themselves, and that was how they coped. The moment they
But
ruffle,
that harnesses depression, and
it does. Yes, depression is actually bred from that. Because we are not with, and the thing is, when you look at depression, or when we define depression, what is it to depress something? It's to push,
it's to push it
something
down. It's to
So
minimize.
human beings are pushing down their emotions. And why? To avoid conflict, to avoid, you know, getting into discussions or in tune with that pain. No one wants to feel pain because it's painful. The moment you enter pain, it brings up feelings of isolation from childhood. It brings up feelings of childhood, of hurt, you know, of feeling unworthy. So no one wants to do that, and that's why everyone is being depressed, because everyone is pushing down their emotions. Also, I think the reason I started the podcast was because, as much as we can say all of this, some people don't know where to start.
Thank you.
And I created it to raise more awareness on the tools people can use, the ways in which they can go about actually starting to reparent the inner child.
Sure.
Because it's all about reparenting, becoming the parent that you never had,
Sure.
giving yourself the love that your parents
Never-
never gave you.
And I love that, you know, because everyone wants to start something, But the most difficult thing is to take the first step.
Yeah.
It takes courage to do that, you know.
It does.
So I thank you for your courage, for
Yeah.
coming on the show and for speaking your truth. I will definitely put your stuff up on your, so people can follow your podcast, follow you on social media,
Yeah.
and just walk with you in your journey, and they'd be able to also make those courageous steps in their journey
Yeah.
of healing, in their journey of self-love, in their journey
Growing.
of growing and reparenting themselves, you know, so we can be a better generation, a courageous generation, and we can have courageous children as well, you know, who can
Yes.
grow up looking at us, you know, and saying
Yes.
and mirroring that, you know, as
Yes.
opposed to what has happened for many generations, you know. So I thank you so much, Tintswalo.
Thank you for having me.
That the Galactic, oh my God, signing out. Hallelujah.